Does anybody know the earliest manuscript we have for the Old Testament? The earliest complete?
Masoret text?
And what's the date? 914 AD.
Isn't it Septuagint order though?
Say again?
Isn't it Septuagint order?
Isn't it?
Yeah, Septuagint is it order?
Septuagint is Greek. I'm talking about Hebrew.
What about the Dead Sea Scrolls?
Dead Sea Scrolls, again, or only the book of Isaiah is complete. That's the only complete book. Lamentation, Jeremiah are not there. So that's not good enough. The earliest complete manuscript we have for the Old Testament is the Masoretic text, 914 AD. So do not argue manuscript evidence from the Quran. Please don't. You're not going to get very much headway. They will hammer you on this. So what do? What are we going to do with the Old Testament since we can't use manuscript evidence like we could with the New? You need to use archaeological evidence. That's where I have to really be thankful for the British. God bless them. By grace, they colonized the whole world. Don't ever quote me on that. Am I being filmed? Sorry, British. Sorry for those who have been colonized by the British, including myself. I grew up in a British colony in India, and I am so happy for it. Let's not here to talk about colony. Thank God for the British, what they did. Because what they did is, as they colonized the whole world, they found so many artifacts everywhere, and they grabbed them all, put their names on it, and then they brought it home and put it in the British Museum. And if you come to London, you've got to go to the British Museum. And I was finding at Speaker's Corner, I was hammering and hammering every week, trying to get Muslims to understand the authority of Scripture. They couldn't, I could not get it. And then I realized I had a building just about 3 miles away that I could use. Because in the British Museum, you have so much material that supports the Old Testament. What's been great is for you Americans, you can't just walk across and get over to the British Museum. So the Green family have done it for you. The Green family, Hobby Lobby, has put is it $30 million, and they've created the Museum of the Bible in Washington, D.C. How many have seen it?
Well,
None of you.
I saw the road show. They had the road show in California.
No, that's not good enough. I'm going to back to good enough. I'm starting to talk like a Muslim now. You got to go see with your own eyes. You got to go to Washington. I only live an hour and a half away from it, so it's just hop and step for me. I went down there in November to look at it. It's 6 floors of material. The 4th floor is by far the best floor. Well, go down and get a hotel and then call us and we'll give you a tour of it. But actually, you don't even need a tour after a day. You'll know everything. Because when you go into what they have done, they have taken all the best from the British Museum, from the Louvre, from the Egyptian Cairo Museum. They've taken all the best material and put it into one room. So that you can look at. Now these are not the originals, obviously, because they wouldn't have access. They put life-size facsimiles of all the best material, and I think they looked at my museum booklet because we put this. I put this booklet together way back in 2000 because we had so many Muslims that wanted to find proof for the Old Testament and that could not find any manuscripts. So I just said, well, I'm going to show exactly where you need to go all over the museum to find all these different artifacts that will support the Bible. Names, dates, places, events, so we know that the Bible can pretty well be shown that whenever it touches history, in every case where it touches history, it gets it correct. Now, that was done in 2000. We had 6,000 people go through that tour. It's the most popular thing for most tourists when they come to Britain, they want that tour. Of the 6,000 that have watched that tour, only 20 have been Muslims. And the 20 that have come, only 2 have made it all the way through the tour. They usually ask to be excused halfway through. They cannot take the evidence that's there. That's how good our material is. So this has all been reproduced and recreated for all of us here in America in Washington, D.C. Let me just give you some of the material that we now have there that you can go and see on the 4th floor. One of the first things that you'll come across when you go in, and I don't have a PowerPoint on this one either, but I have a PowerPoint, but it would take me 3 hours to get through it. And if I go PowerPoint, you'll be here till dinner time. So what I decided to do is just throw it at you, and then you can we'll give you the PowerPoint. By the way, we do, where's George? Again, he's missing, he's always missing. We can never get George to listen to us. As soon as our voice, isn't that right, David? As soon as we speak, he seems to run away. God bless him. He's working so hard, but he's not working where he needs to be. Well, anyways, the non-existent George does have a, they do have a we do have a sign-up sheet, because all of this material is being taught. We're gonna teach you all this material with a Founder course. And the Founder course registration closes tonight. This is the last day you can sign up for it. So if you do want it, I'm gonna send you out an email tonight with the registration form on it, so you can actually sign up tonight. Because after tomorrow, you won't be able to do it this year. You'll have to wait till next year. It's for those from September to April, and it's 24 courses where we come to you in your own laptop. So you actually can sit at home. You don't have to leave the comfort of your own home, sit in your air conditioning, be an armchair apologist, and we will teach you all the apologetics and polemics you need to know. Because of the fact that we cannot teach this in seminaries, we cannot teach this in Bible schools. If we were to teach it in seminaries or Bible schools and the Muslims found out about it, they would target those schools. Now what they have been doing is they have having people like myself, they have David, they come in under the radar. We are not advertised, we come and we do a week of real intensive training, and then we leave and no one knows about it except the students. But we cannot be everywhere at one time, so that's why we put this course together in London. And I'm one of 4 teachers to train you up on how to answer these questions Muslims are throwing at us, but how to take the same questions and throw it right back in their laps. That's apologetics and polemics. It goes both ways. Apologetics, defense, polemics, offense. And the apologetics is defending the Bible. Polemics is destroying the Quran. Apologetics is defending Jesus. Polemics is destroying Muhammad. Apologetics is defending Yahweh. Polemics is destroying Allah. It's that simple. Just those 6 subjects. And we're the ones who will teach you how to do that, so you can do it in the comfort of your own home. Now, saying that, when you go and you look at this material, certainly the Old Testament, we need to start with the Gilgamesh epic. The Gilgamesh epic is what really started the whole good fight. In fact, it was what started historical criticism and was created on biblical criticism. Back in the 1800s, when they came across these 2 tablets, they're in the British Museum. One was of the flood, and the other one was of the epic of creation. Have you seen the Gilgamesh epic? Have anybody read it? From the 6th century BC, have you noticed? It's very close to the biblical account, isn't it? So it was natural to assume by the historians that this must be the source for that story in the Bible, right? Because it's so similar. What they didn't realize is when you look at the Gilgamesh epic, there are other tablets that have been found since then. Look at the Atrahasis tablet, which was just found 2 years ago. The Atrahasis tablet is 1,000 years older than the Gilgamesh epic. It's about the same size as the Gilgamesh epic, written in cuneiform, just like the Gilgamesh epic. But it's 1,000 years earlier, and it has the exact same story, which puts it to 1600 BC. 1600 BC. Moses was living and working in 1400 BC. It predates Moses, and yet it hadn't changed in 1,000 years. And when you look at the Gilgamesh epic, it doesn't take you anywhere. Notice the Atrahasis tablet. It basically says that there was a man and a woman. They were in a garden. They were told not to eat of a certain fruit. They ate, and of course, they then pretty much were thrown out. That's all it says. It doesn't tell you. It doesn't take you anywhere. It doesn't lead you anywhere. Suggesting that there's an awful lot missing in that story. Very simplistic. That's why now historians are trying to look anew and realize that this is probably not the source, because of the fact that not only hasn't changed in 1,000 years, we know that history changes all the time. If you look at most of the artifacts in the British Museum, you will see that they're large stones or large objects built by kings. Most everything you look at in ancient history is built by kings, because they're the only ones wealthy enough to create such large objects. And when they build these large objects, what do they write on them in cuneiform? They write about themselves. They're only interested in their own story. And they only write that which goes right. They never write that which goes wrong. Let me give you an example. Shalmaneser III. Shalmaneser III, you look at, if you want to find out about Shalmaneser III, you need to go back, you need to go to the British Museum. And Shalmaneser III is written about there in British Museum. In fact, you have a whole an obelisk that is written by him. Sorry, it's not an obelisk, it's actually a stela. To get the right thing, it's actually a huge piece of rock. And it talks about, references the whole problem between the Israelites, and also you have, I'm trying to figure the name off the top of my head. I should have my notes in front of me, but I don't. I'm doing this all off the top of my head. Help me here. What is happening between where you have the 11 kingdoms and you have the Assyrians coming down and they're destroying the 11 kingdoms. They're destroying. Anybody know the name? I have to go off the top of my head. It'll come to me. It'll come to me. No, it's not going to me.
Babylon?
No, it's not Babylon. Anyways, they're destroying 11 kings. One of the kings is named Hamath. There you go. It's the king of Hamath. Have you heard this before? The king of Hamath was being attacked, and he needed help. And so he asked the Israelite king to come to his help. And what happened was, when you look at 1 Kings chapter 9, when you look at 1 Kings chapter 9, you will see that this king, and his name, who is the king in chapter 1? Just look it up, 1 Kings chapter 9. Who is the name of the king there? This is going blank to me right now. Boy, I hope this never happens to me in a debate. Does anybody have it? Ahab. Thank you. Ahab. There you go. He is supposed to, actually, he has a problem with his right next to him. He has a problem with the king that's next to him. And so he then puts down his weapons for about 3 years. But we don't know why he puts down his weapons. And that has always been a problem. Historians don't know what to do with that. Until they came to the stela of Shalmaneser III. When they look at the stela of Shalmaneser III, they find that Shalmaneser comes and attacks Iduleni, who is the king of Hamath. When he attacks Iduleni, Iduleni cannot repulse him. So he asks the help for the other 10 kings in the plains to come to him. They do come to him, and they repulse back and push back Shalmaneser back up to Nimrud, which is the city he lives in. What's interesting is when you look at the stela, you will see that in the stela it says clearly that he is winning the battle. It says that the rivers were covered with bodies and their plain is covered with blood, which seems to suggest that he's winning the battle until you get to the bottom of the stela and you read the cuneiform down there, and it says, and he goes home. Now hold on a minute. If you're winning the battle, you don't just go home. What do? You take all the booty back with you, and then you write about all the booty. Whenever you look at a stela by any king, whether it's Shalmaneser III or anybody else, you write about the name of the king, you write about all the gold and the silver and all the jewels, you write about how many elephants, how many horses, you write about everything you take back with you to aggrandize yourself. But he says nothing then, and he went home. What's going on here?
He lost. No, he lost.
He lost, but why doesn't he say so?
Because he's embarrassed.
You never talk about defeat. This is called political spin. Listen, Trump was not the first one to invent political spin. Shalmaneser III, the Assyrians were masters at it. And when you look at all these stelas and all these obelisks and all these murals all over the Assyrian group, when you go to the British Museum and also the Museum of the Bible, you will see that this is political spin over and over and over again. And what's fascinating about is that historians know this. This is why historians know that there's a problem whenever you're looking at ancient history, because you're only going to get the good breath, you're not going to get the bad breath. Except the Bible. The Bible is the only piece of literature, ancient literature, that talks about the problems of the kings and the sins of the great men of God. Have you noticed? All the great men of God's sins are included, and that's why Muslims come up to me all the time, and they say, how can we trust this book? Look at all your prophets, they're all sinful. And I just shake their hands and say, thank you, just prove the authority of my Bible. The fact that the sins are left in shows that the Bible is the unique book in history. It's the only historical record that keeps all the bad breath, keeps all the sins of the prophets. Now when you see that, then you start to realize you need both texts. Let's go from there and let's go and give you some examples. Let's take a look at Abraham. Abraham has always been attacked because there's no record of him. We don't have any record of him. We don't know much of what he said. In fact, most historians, even Christian historians, say you can pretty much throw out the first 11 chapters of Genesis. Not even do any work with it because the first 11 chapters are not ahistorical. The problem is that was okay until they came across the tablets, the Nuzi tablets, the Mari tablets, and especially the Ebla tablets. These are 3 genera of tablets that have been found in Mesopotamia. That's the Nuzi and the Mari tablets in Euphrates Valley. That is where Abraham was from. That is where the city of Ur was discovered. Which is interesting because that was only discovered in 1920. And before 1920, no one had ever heard of a place called Ur. They thought that was fictitious. They always thought that the names of Sodom and Gomorrah were fictitious. Remember that? They always thought that much of the Old Testament record of Abraham was all fictitious. When they look at the Nuzi tablets were written about 1600 BC. The Ebla tablets were written much earlier. They were written in 2300 BC. The Mari tablets are written between 1400 up to 1200 BC, so these were all written in Europe, in the Euphrates Valley, in Mesopotamia, where Abraham came from. They were all written about the same time period that Abraham was living. So if you want to get a window into exactly what's happening in Abraham's time, you need to look at these tablets. And look what these tablets tell us. The tablets, the Newsy tablets, are really exciting because they tell us about names that we now see. Names that we now see in the biblical account. Let me see if I can find some of them here. But if you have a look and you look and see it on our paper, we actually go through these names. The names that you see refer to places that we find in the Bible. Most importantly, we want to find out the customs. When you look at the customs and the names of the customs, you will find that in every case, the Newsy and Mari tablets explain the customs that Abraham did. For instance, the fact that you can still occult God and be a capital offense. This is in the Newsy tablets. The fact that you can marry your sister and call her your wife. This is in the Newsy tablets. Now, what's interesting is every one of these customs went out of date by 1600 BC. Moses was writing this down in 1400 BC. How would Moses have known about these customs? More interesting, if the Gilgamesh epic is the earliest record we have for this period, that was in the 6th century BC. How could anybody in the 6th century BC have known something that took place 1,000 years earlier and have got it so accurately? Well, let's talk about those two cities of Sodom and Gomorrah. Sodom and Gomorrah have never been recorded in any other ancient piece of history. You look at Herodotus, you look at Thucydides, these are the Thucydides, however you want to pronounce it. These are the 5th century historians who gave us the window into the Assyrian period, into the Babylonian period, and into the Persian period. And when you look at their material, you will see that neither Herodotus nor Thucydides ever mentioned these two cities. There is no record of Sodom and Gomorrah anywhere. We can't find it. Until they discovered the Ebla tablets. Who remembers when the Ebla tablets were discovered? Well, you have to have gray hair like me to know that. There's a man with gray hair. It was when we were little kids, in the 1950s, the 1960s, which shows how old I am. In the 1950s, they came across this mound in the desert in northern Syria called Tel Marduk. And as they started digging down in the Tel Marduk, as they dig it down to the different areas, they started coming across artifact after artifact until they got to the 2300 BC period. In the 2300 BC period, they came across an entire city that had been abandoned. Inside that city was one house. Inside that house was one room. On the floor of that one room were 17,000 tablets. 17,000. Now, the beautiful thing about tablets is that they are clay and they are burned, they are fired. Which means they are the best preserved. When you look at the tablets, you will notice that they are as good today as the day they were burned. They don't disintegrate, they don't deteriorate. And as they read the cuneiform that was on them, they came across just one of these tablets of the 17,000. They found name of 5 cities: Sodom, Gomorrah, Admah, Zebulun, and Zoar. The only and the first references to Sodom and Gomorrah were found on the Ebla tablets from 2300 BC. Abraham died in 1900 BC. Moses was writing this in 1400 BC. In 2300 BC, Sodom and Gomorrah did exist, 400 years before Abraham, proving that the Bible was correct. But it gets even better than that. Look at the sequence of these 5 cities: Sodom, Gomorrah, Admah, Zebulun, and Zoar. Have you heard about those 5 cities in that order before? Yes? You better if you read your Bible. Look at Genesis chapter 14, verse 8. In Genesis chapter 14, verse 8, you will find the exact same 5 cities in the exact same order as found in the Ebla tablets, proving that there's something significant about that sequence. We now know what it is. Sodom, Gomorrah, Admah, Zebulun, and Zoar. What have I just done? I'm pointing them out on the map. This is a trade route. And whenever you write trade routes, you always write them as if you're pointing them on a map. This is the map of the trade route going from Sodom, then going to Gomorrah. And if you look and see where, we know where Admah, Zebulun, and Zoar are today. When you look at Sodom and Gomorrah, it would place them somewhere in the Dead Sea. And that's why they can't be discovered, because they've been put underwater, because the Dead Sea has grown and grown and grown over the centuries. Ooh, I love it. It makes my job so easy. But how could Moses, living in the 1400s, who never went to Euphrates Valley, never ever went to Mesopotamia, never would have even known about this trade route, there was no way that he could have known the sequence of these 5 cities. How did Moses get it so correct? Ooh, I love my God. Do you see what God's doing? He's putting these little tidbits into his revelation, knowing that this was going to be the battle for today. This is going to be the battle for today. We get to Jehu. 1 Kings chapter 22, the Jehu obelisk. This is also the museum of the Bible. You look at this obelisk there, from the 9th century BC. I think the date is 841 exactly. 841 is what they dated it today. Jehu was the captain of the guards, and he was told by Elijah the prophet that he was to go and kill Ahab. Ahab had already died. He was to kill the whole family of Ahab, and he was to take over. Now, is that historical? Would you like to know if Jehu actually existed? Would you like to know if Jehu is actually shown anywhere? Yes, he is. He's in the British Museum. He's also in the Museum of the Bible in Washington, D.C. Look at the black obelisk, which has been found and been discovered by the British. There is a picture of Jehu on the second rung from the top, and he is bending down and he's bowing to Shalmaneser III. But look at the date, 843 BC. That exactly fits exactly what we see in 1 Kings chapter 22. We've got the right man at the right place doing the right thing at the right time. In fact, it's the earliest known reference or image of any Israelite king anywhere in the world, proving that 1st and 2nd Kings are correct. We get then to Tiglath-Pileser III. Tiglath-Pileser III is a fascinating character, and there's a mural about him also in the British Museum, and now they're putting it at the Museum of the Bible. Tiglath-Pileser was the only king, the Syrian king, that goes down and actually attacks Israel twice. And the second time that he attacks Israel, his dates are 745 to 727. The second time that he attacks Israel, he sets up his own king called Menahem, who's like a puppet king. Now, we hear about him 11 times. There is reference to Tiglath-Pileser in our Bible. But interestingly, he's not only called Tiglath-Pileser, he's also called Pul, P-U-L. Historians have always looked at that and said this is something wrong. There's no reference to this name Pul. Herodotus and Thucydides talk about Tiglath-Pileser. They mention him quite a bit, and they mention his name, but they never refer to him as Pul. Only the Bible seems to suggest that his name is Pul, or a name, Pul. So what are we going to do with this? Well, as all historians do, they say, well, the Bible's full of fiction. The Bible's nothing more than ahistorical. This is nothing more than mythology or legend. Until they came across the mural of Tiglath-Pileser, which sits in the British Museum, and the British discovered it. So only half of the mural, the second bottom half is broken. You only see half of Tiglath-Pileser's image, and then you look over, and there are 3 blocks of letters of writing of cuneiform. On the far right side, it mentions that the nickname for Tiglath-Pileser is Pul. Proving that whoever wrote 2nd Kings had to have been living at that time to know something that specific, because not even Herodotus and Thucydides knew this. Writing in the 5th century. That's how accurate our Bible is. Ooh, just give me the heebie-jeebies to think about it. We don't ask our Bible to be that accurate. It just turns out to be that accurate. They're trying their best to say it's mythology. They're trying their best to say it's nothing more than legend. Then you come to Sargon II. Sargon II is referred to once in the Bible in, I think it's Isaiah 20, verse 1. And when you look at about it, he builds the great city of Korsavai. I'm not going to say too much about Sargon II, other than the fact that he comes down from Korsavai and he destroys the 10 kings of Israel and leaves one king alone. He only destroys the 10 northern kings. Leaves one king alone. That means there's only 11 kings. What do you do with the 12th? Well, you know that the tribe of Levi were all interspersed in the other 11. That's why we don't find interestingly, that's in the annals of Sargon II. But what's interesting is what his son does, Sennacherib. You all know Sennacherib, right? But you don't know what we now know about Sennacherib. See, Sennacherib was fascinating because he decides to do what his father didn't do. He decides to come down and destroy the tribe of Judah that's in the south. Remember, the 10 northern tribes have become evil and they had all been taken into captivity, but Judah was left alone. Judah was the only tribe that stayed close to God. Judah also controlled Jerusalem. That's where Hezekiah was. Hezekiah was shut up there in Jerusalem. Is he historical? When you come to the British Museum, and when you also go to the Museum of the Bible, you will see a prison called the Taylor Prison, named after Colonel Taylor. The British always put their names on everything. But it's a 6-sided prison. And on one side of the 6th side is a mural, what do you call it, the side? Well, okay, one side, a column. That's what I'm looking for, a column, all written in uniform. And on that, it mentions Hezekiah by name. Fascinating. It says that Sennacherib comes from Nineveh. He's the one that built the city of Nineveh. And he comes down to Lachish, which is one of the major cities of the Judeans, destroys all the fortified cities, destroys Lachish or Lachish, and then he turns his energies to Jerusalem because that's where the mother lode is. That is the capital. And it mentions that Hezekiah is inside that city, and then he pays 30 talents of gold. When you take a look at this mural, this column, you will see that it exactly fits what we see in 2 Kings chapter 19 and Isaiah chapter 37. It exactly fits, almost word for word is the same. What's interesting is it says that he comes to Jerusalem and then he suddenly goes home. Wait a minute, aren't you supposed to destroy Jerusalem? Why did he suddenly go home? You ask that question, right? He never attacked Jerusalem. Anybody know why he suddenly went home? Don't look at the Taylor Prince if it doesn't tell you. You're going to have to go to the Bible to find out. What happened?
There's problems at home.
There you go. There were problems in Nineveh. There was problems in Nineveh, but who was causing the problems in Nineveh? No. I know you like it. That's not the right answer this time. There was someone who was attacking Nineveh while he was away. His name was Taharka or Tirhaka, depending on where you put the vowelization. Now, this name has not been found anywhere. No historian has ever heard this name. Herodotus doesn't know about it. Thucydides doesn't know about it. They cannot find this name anywhere. Only the Bible talks about this Tirhaka, this or Tahaka, who is attacking Nineveh, which means that Sennacherib has to rush home to defend his own city, which he does. And he destroys this Tahaka, or this Tirhaka, this mysterious character, and then he comes back a second time, back to Jerusalem, and he's going to destroy Jerusalem, and then what happens next? The angel of the Lord comes down and destroys 185,000 of his men that very night. But what about this Tahaka? See, I'd like to know about this Tahaka. We're scratching our head because I'd like to know if he existed. The Bible's the only one that talks about it. Well, the British Museum has now solved that problem for us. The British Museum has a mural, it has a statue of a ram with its 2 feet here, and right in front of the ram is an image of a king. He looks like an Egyptian king. But it was written in hieroglyphics all around the base, and no one knew what hieroglyphics was. Hieroglyphics was a lost language because it was the language, it was the script of the aristocracy. And during the aristocracy, when the aristocracy were destroyed by the proletariats, by the common man, they destroyed the script with it. So all we had was demonic. That's the only script that we have from Egypt until the Rosetta Stone was discovered. Remember the Rosetta Stone in the 1800s by Champion? And when the British and the French discovered the Rosetta Stone, they came across, and really it's not a very important stone. It's just a stone that has tax law in it. But it's written in hieroglyphics, it's written in Demonic, and it's written in Greek. And by looking at the Demonic and the Greek, comparing it with the hieroglyphics, they were able to reproduce the hieroglyphics, and that's why we can read it today. And that's why they went back to this statue, which they've had for over 300 years. They've known about this statue. They couldn't read it until the 1800s. And when they read around it, all of a sudden they saw that this man that's standing there between the 2 legs of this ram is named Tahaka. Ooh, I love it. The man we're looking for, proving that the Bible was correct. The more they scratch, the more they find. The more they find, the more they whine. The more they whine, the more we shine. Oh, isn't it great? All you do is just keep scratching the ground and let the British discover for us. Why do you think I've been in Britain for 25 years? It's so good to know. God bless them. They get the right things right. Now, then we come to Daniel, the book of Daniel. This is my favorite. When you go upstairs in the British Museum, well, let's ask the first question. What is the problem with the book of Daniel? Why is it that the historians hate the book of Daniel? Anybody know?
It's so accurate.
It's what?
It's very accurate.
It's actually inaccurate. That's correct.
So
It's absolutely inaccurate. And why is it inaccurate? Well, first and foremost, it's written around 539 BC. But it's referring to events that could not have taken place, because 539 BC is the 6th century BC, correct? And yet it's talking about 4 kingdoms. Am I correct? Karen, is that correct? All right. What are the 4 kingdoms? Well, there you have the Persians. That's not prophetic, because the Persians were existing in the 5th century, the 6th century BC, so they would have known about that. It also talks about the Assyrians, the Babylonians. No, we're talking about the Babylonians. This is the Babylon that you have. Daniel was in Babylon, so that's not prophetic. It's the next two kingdoms that are the problem. It then refers to the Greeks. I'm sorry, to the Greeks who don't appear until the 3rd century BC, and then it refers to the Romans. 4th century BC, and then refers to the Romans who don't appear until the 2nd century BC. How could someone writing about in the 6th century know about people that were yet to exist 200 to 300 years later? That's why the historians don't like the book of Daniel. It is absolutely inaccurate. So what they have tried to do is they tried to find out if there's any historical anachronism that they could point out to show that this book was written in the 2nd century and redacted back to the 6th century, so they would have known about the Greeks and the Romans, and they found it. And the name is Belshazzar. There's the problem. How can you have someone named Belshazzar when he is not the last of the kings? If you go to the Babylonian section of the British Museum, you will see the last of the kings that is there is Nabonidus, not Belshazzar. Nabonidus is the last king. Nabonidus is the one that was destroyed by Cyrus the Great. Well, actually, it was Darius who was under the auspices of Cyrus the Great that destroyed him. That was in 539. It looks like the Bible's got it wrong. It looks like we're over a barrel. So how are we going to solve that problem?
Because of the child, grandchild.
No.
Was the child of
Where do you get that from?
I read,
Where?
I don't know, some documentation.
That's not going to help. You're not persuaded me. How is it we're going to find? What are we going to do to prove that Belshazzar is the right name?
Go back to the Bible.
Hmm?
Go back to the Bible.
Well, the Bible's there, but we just proved the Bible wrong because the Bible's got the wrong man. Belshazzar is not known anywhere, and Belshazzar is not the last king.
Norwegian.
What's that?
Norwegian.
I can't hear you.
Norwegian.
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 Okay, he's a co-regent. That's internal because of Daniel chapter 5, verse 16. In Daniel chapter 5, verse 16, remember when Daniel's taken out of prison, he's told to read the writing on the wall. He does so, and this Belshazzar, who is supposedly the king, turns to him, and he says, "You'll be number 3 in my land." You'll be number 3. Why number 3?
Because Belshazzar, his father, Belshazzar, and
But you're not helping me. How do you know that? Don't just smile. You need to give up with answers. Really, Muslims will hammer you on this.
Because he was the king and his son was.
Prove it.
Well, that was the custom. If you look at history.
no.
Where are you can support that? Support that right now. So you can't support that unless you go back to the British Museum. Do I sound like an Anglophone? I lived there too long. You need to go back and you need to not go to the British. You actually need to go to a ziggurat in the city of Ur. But Sir Leonard Woolley is the one that discovered Ur. British again. Had we not had Sir Woolley, who actually went out and actually did some scratching in the ground and started coming across all these artifacts, and then got a whole army to come together to uncover the entire city of Ur, including the ziggurat. Look how large that is. It is about 80 feet high. He had to dig away all the sand, and then he had to dig away all the steps, and then he had to go into the ziggurat, and he had to go into one room, and inside one room he came across a little barrel just this big, written by Nabonidus in cuneiform. That barrel was only discovered in 1920. That barrel is in the British Museum. On that barrel, it is written, and you are correct, but you didn't even support it, it's written by Nabonidus. It's a prayer for his son, Belshazzar. Ooh, I love it. The first and only place in the world where you'll find Belshazzar's name is on that drum. That still doesn't help us. Hold on a minute. That still doesn't help us. You need to go to another little tablet that's only 2 feet away from that drum, which is a tablet written by Nabonidus saying that for the last 10 years of his life, he went into semi-retirement. So while he was in retirement, he realized that he needed to help fund. So he had his son take care of the land. So why is it Herodotus and Thucydides knew nothing about Belshazzar? Why is there nothing written about Belshazzar, though he was king for 10 years? For one very simple reason. If Belshazzar were to go and destroy any place or any kingdom or any city, who would get credit for it? His father would. So he did nothing. He was waiting for his father to die. Meanwhile, Cyrus the Great came and destroyed Babylon in the 539, destroyed him, and destroyed any reference to him except the Bible. Now with that little trumpet, that little tablet just 2 feet apart, we can pretty well support the fact that Daniel, that whoever wrote the book of Daniel had to have been privy, had to have been living in the 6th century. This was not written in the 2nd century and redacted back. And if it was written in the 2nd century, then this is prophecy, proving that the Bible is not only correct, but the prophecy is correct. Ooh, I love it. Do you see why I love this? Do you see why this is so much fun? And I don't have to do a thing. I just have to show them the rocks, the stones. And if we're not going to cry out, the stones are going to cry out for us. That's exactly what God said. If you want to show the authority for the Bible, just go to the British Museum. Just go to the Museum of the Bible in Washington, D.C. There are so many artifacts. I don't even have time. I've got 2 pages full of stuff here that I can go through. But listen, come and be, not only, let me just finish then with these quotes, because we need to finish with these quotes. And this is what the archaeologists say. Listen to this. G.E. Wright says this: we shall probably never prove that Upper really existed. But what we can prove, using the Nuzi tablets, using the Mari tablets, using the Ebla tablets, is that his life and times, as reflected in the stories about him, fit perfectly within the early 2nd millennium, but imperfectly within any later period. Sir Frederick Kenyon, another great, well-known archaeologist, British, mentions the evidence of archaeology has been to re-establish the authority of the Old Testament and likewise to augment its value by rendering it more intelligible through a fuller knowledge of its background and setting. William F. Albright, a renowned archaeologist, says, the excessive skepticism shown towards the Bible by important historical schools of the 18th and 19th centuries, certain phases which still appear periodically, has been progressively discredited. Discovery after discovery has established the accuracy of innumerable details and has brought increased recognition to the value of the Bible as a source of history. Miller Burroughs from Yale, an American, says, on the whole, archaeological work has unquestionably strengthened confidence in the reliability of the scriptural record. Joseph Freed confirms that while thumbing through the book of Genesis, he mentally noted that each of the 50 chapters are either illuminated or confirmed by some archaeological discovery, and that this would be true for most of the remaining chapters of the Bible, both the Old and New Testament. Now, I'm going to end with this last quote. Nelson Look, a Jewish Reform scholar and archaeologist, probably gives us the greatest support for the Bible when he states this: to date, no archaeological discovery has ever controverted a single properly understood biblical statement. To date, no archaeological discovery has ever controverted a single properly understood biblical statement. Only the Bible can make that claim, folks. Only the Bible can make that claim. That's why I love this book. That's why I take it everywhere. I take these 2 books with me everywhere I go. That's all I need. Because this one destroyed this book. We can see what we did yesterday. You can see what David's doing, what I'm doing. We're not only going to do a comparison between these books, we're showing that God has preserved this book for a reason. We need to have that archaeological material. We need to have the manuscript for the New Testament and the archaeology for the Old Testament. Because as long as you can trust the Bible, then you can trust what's in it. God bless you. Let's have some.